Okay, so if I am to stand in clarity about the process of today, stand right before this true face, if I would be able to bore through just like a tunnel boring machine through these distorted skeleton of this imagination of what we seem to be, how we seem to appear as. We take it for granted, this common representation of ourselves, that we consider it so utterly real, so comfortable to stay in this form of identity, this physical, stable identity. And that I find it as the story of my existence, as I can clarify it today, and stand in it and act in it. And I find it as my true story according to the resources that I can get to act on it.
What the fuck is this?
So when I say that I find and define and act in my true story, I would say that it depends on the territories of experience that are engaged in it. So one can define the precision of standing in their own purpose, the kind of precision to stand in the direction, the true spirit direction of their purpose, depending on how much resource they can handle, depending on how, like, the type of clarity, the type of definition, the type of logic, or the type of purity in this direction. If a direction is defined in a more universal way, then it is able to engage vaster perspective of existence. So if your purpose is more universal, is larger than individual, then the force is in direct accord with that.
Recognizing what freedom is. Realizing what the fuck this is. So what are your options? Continuously asking yourself what is the nature of options there.
I just stand in front of the immense effort to step out of this inertial comfort of existence, this inertial comfort of identity, this physical identity. I observe how
grip to take a to handle all of it. Come on.
It's like if one wants to be a philosopher and like has this ideal of truth, would kind of reach some exceptional states or understanding or definition or type of speech or perspective. But that is just defined as some kind of ideal truth, and their own motivation will be limited by this kind of framing as like philosophical truth or even scientifical truth, or even if an artist would aspire towards a certain vision and would create an image of that vision, it will still be defined as a kind of artistic drive or artistic pursuit, which is certainly distorted in the sense that it is like not taken seriously. To be taken seriously would mean to be a matter of survival. Like if an artist handles vision in some kind of tribe or family, of course they would not be taken as seriously as the ones who handle survival, producing the food. So then there is a distortion related to how one defines this kind of process.
So how does one stand in this battle?
So one to stand in responsibility about the nature of such process is to understand that it is utterly crucial and there is nothing of higher importance. There is no priority of survival before understanding the nature of this.
Battle against common imagination.
This is just a matter of integrity, if one can engage the process fully.
10 in revealing their true nature, the true territories of their.
So if I am to have like to give an honest account of the existential position in which I stand and the way this kind of process shapes how I define my position in this context.
The nature of pure experience from the stories of objective identity. How does one get to detach the real pure experience? Why should this be difficult?
I am with my daughters in a certain context and I observe how this image of a child or this image of a certain kind of human being is determining what I can be, what I can want, what I can see as possible in this context. What I can see as the story of our being together. But if I can get clear about this, the limitation of such images that are kind of considered as true or considered as defining of who we are, or we are so settled into the comfort of such definition or such identity.
What is the real story of this?
Then one can somehow get awakened to the outrageous disposition, the becoming kind of enraged against how things seem to be defined in the conventional reality. So then I try to be clear about what my experience is, and if I am clear about my experience, then I understand that it's a huge system of possibility, like a huge domain of possible will that is defined by all that I have lived, all my memory, all my understanding, all my worldview. So if I am to be responsible with that, then I need to step out of this comfortable, objective situation in which I am an object in space and time and I have various possible motions of will or degrees of freedom.
Standing in purpose.
So then I just
true life. Standing the fucking purpose.
I want to be truthful to the domains of freedom that I have around me as possible behavior, possible action, possible energy, drive, configuration of purpose, of story. So I observe what are the systems that keep it locked or paralyzed, keep this energy of possibility locked into some configuration of probable events, probable, like, usual dispositions of will, usual morphology of a life.
This image, this fucking distorted perception, where is this war against common perception, this stabilized.
But if I step somehow beyond this and like get liberated from this common imagination that is so visually rooted into our sense of reality, that is like visual perception is so kind of
this lazy, such a gift form. There could be What you believe is the nature of it. Gift. Why does this seem so convincing?
overwhelming.
Come on. Come on. Come on.
So I need to find some sort of territory of freedom, some sort of
Did you get into this form?
void spaciousness of vision in which I can recall all of the forces of my destiny, like all that I have lived through, all the kinds of love or aspiration or drive that have shaped the decisions in my destiny, that have shaped this type of mind that I stand in. So if I am to be truthful with that structure, this is like a new definition of what it means to be honest, to observe all that stands as possible model of behavior, possible structure of horizon, just to awaken to the vastness of this definition and to decide that that is the truth and not what is immediately perceptually available or what is inertially accessible by the means of this primitive memory.
What is the nature of perceptionness? What is the nature of this image? What is the nature of this imagination? What is the nature of this common association?
Then okay, I become responsible of, I see this monstrous domain of configurations of powers and feelings and tendencies and subtle
structure of imagination,
ungraspable configurations that I need to get a grip on and to be responsible for. Thus, first of all, I need to just burn all of this kind of inertia of association, like this association between the motions of the spirit, like the pure liberated motions of language or of mind, and what is imagination or what is the feeling of experiential reality or physical experience. So to step out of this definition of truth as correspondence, according to my dear friend Wittgenstein. So then I engage this capacity for outrage to get liberated from these associations that could be understood as a form of exhaustion of the power of our spirit, because it's like a continuous construction of a world that defines our capacity of action. Like these beliefs that are uninvestigated, unclarified, that are like colonizing our definition of selves, are in a way exhausting our powers because they are like continuously producing the prejudged conditions all around us. Like the way I believe in the nature of time or physical space or the nature of the landscape around me or the nature of this culture that is somehow present and existent all around me in this world and other parts of the world, whatever. That is a continuous kind of use of energy to make it consistently real for me, thus shaping my capacity of will or shaping my capacity of behavior in a certain way. So limiting my force of determination, limiting my clarity about what is my true direction, what is the direction of my love. That would be like if I would be able to get clear and determined in the truth of what pure love implies, that would be somehow standing in sovereignty about the complete domain, territory, the complete domain of my energy. So okay, I know that I need to step out of these stories of individual identity, or stories of how we are defined in our relationships, like for example with me and my daughters, how I am trained to believe in these kinds of roles or identities or physical stable presences defined in this spatio-temporal reality. I get like into this mode of revolt against this imagination, which is, we take it as real, we take it as completely like the base of reality. And when one gets to have an attitude that can become a liberation from this status quo, then I'm free to redefine what my story is. I'm free to recruit these morphologies of pure experience because I have liberated them from their objective definition. So then I can understand, okay, if I step out of this small definition of how we perceive time and space, then I'm free to understand essentially what the purpose in this life is. I'm free to be clear about it, and thus to be clear about how this co-creation with the others functions, and thus to understand the vaster configurations of being that are intertwined, intermingled in this vast scenario, in this vast symphony. So then, if I stand in front of my daughters, there is no longer this feeling of standing in front of some children and we have these days of holiday, these days of leisure, and we can just enjoy them, and that's all we can do. We cannot do anything more than that, or it's not probable that we might do anything more than that. But just if I can awaken to, okay, we are living a vast, fierce, enormous adventure, and we are like, the intelligence of this vaster scenario is unquestionable. Like, it cannot be less than the most intelligent story that I can conceive of. It cannot be less or less exciting than, less intelligent or less ingenious than the most advanced mythology that one can conceive. So then, just like, it feels like whipping oneself into another caliber of existence. Like, okay, who defined what is the story of what is our experience here and now? So if I step into a vaster scale, then I kind of whip myself into clarity about the forces involved, about how they are represented, and what kind of skill of memory I can attain so I can handle these vaster contemplation of what this co-creation implies. Then there is like a feeling of awakening to a war. There is also a feeling of awakening to a vast celebration, like an ecstatic reunion with ancient friends. But I think these are just indications at the emotional level, like indications of intensity. As I said before, stepping into your story implies vaster resources, like a purified and thus vaster, refined nature of identity, nature, like definition of reality, definition of purpose, of life, of story, of existence. It is like necessarily related to a shift of resources. Like, one cannot build some sort of fantasy, like a fiction of what is, like a theological fiction of what is real, unless it is backed up by real resource, like soul, let's say soul power in the words of James Brown, mind power. So
territory, functional architecture. Come on.
I'm just grateful for being in this context in which I can observe how painful, like the suffering of being defined in a very common, conventional, brutally small story of what is possible here and now, of what is possible in this context. So it's like acknowledging the collaboration of all in creating this experience in which we can taste this exact proportion of the story. Like, how does this taste like? So
this is a real war. This is no fucking philosophy or art. There is no way around this. This is a new definition of what survival means.
it feels important that I'm speaking in a domain of motive that is ungraspable or is not easily defined, because I stand with philosophical responsibility, I stand with artistic responsibility, I stand with existential, experiential responsibility, and I just aim for the possibility of such a discipline that can have them together. Like, it's quite important how one defines oneself in their process, in their like boiling sense of mission. If one defines themselves as a writer or a philosopher or artist or whatever, parent,
if you stand truthful, what the fuck is this?
so there is some kind of unusual structure of motivation that can handle all of them together, that can step beyond these small definitions that imply actually irresponsibility, like irresponsibility of all the domains of
You get clear about your story.
Of necessary discernment. So okay.
Such a strange possibility. How does one get to stand against this hall of mirrors?
What I can observe as
Against this hall of mirrors. How does one get to awaken to the nature of this distortion?
there is some sort of creative responsibility involved in this process,
How does it taste like
which is, if one has the courage to negate or to step beyond conventional identity, it is sort of terrifying. It is a terrifying experience to step beyond the conventional definitions, the conventional story, like a conventional stability of a story. And in this liminal space that is terrifying and unbearable in a way,
shaping destiny, which are the forces that shape case.
when the stability of conventional perception is no longer trusted as a grip onto what is real. If one steps beyond this delusion of this passive perception as being some sort of stable reality or stable form of identity, if one can get the courage to be in integrity with these kind of accepted forms of truth. Like, we all esteem these truths that come from spiritual exploration related to non-duality or parenthesizing our beliefs about identity. We all respect them somehow, but there is, it's something else to step into integrity in trying to attain the coherency with experience. Like, what does it mean to produce a cultural infrastructure that would finally result in coherence between these precious insights that we strive for and the very inertially dense nature of our objective experience or common experience or shared conventional experience. So what I can observe is that to step beyond this liminal territory, like to step on to the other side, is to step out of the definition of perception as inertial. Like, one cannot exist inertially. So there is a constant act of creation when one steps into this domain of reality. Meaning that you cannot survive there if you are not continuously responsibly active or responsible. So it's a new type of breathing, a new type of survival. So surviving in this physical domain is defined in a certain way, but survival in the realms of the spirit has a totally different definition, and it is thoroughly related to activating the capacity of creation.
Stand in clarity about something. Okay. The very ground of intelligence, the very ground of memory, the very nature, first of all, truly established memory. The territory of
in a very
experience, everything that is
honest and directly relevant way, I can say I find this mode of access very rarely, and I long for having a fluid access, and that implies a sort of developing a subtle memory or a certain language that is adequate. That would be like the antidote to common imagination. Our mind is kind of formatted with common imagination. So then to attain existence in a different definition of reality means to attain a different kind of imagination or a different stable morphology of how the faculties of the mind are established, structured, the architecture of the mind in its stable, accessible, shared, conscious form.
Some kind of taste of take it what this is, but honor it. Then you understand how inadequate this type of imagination is. And you understand how unreal, how inadequate this imagination of objective reality is. So then you understand that this is not some sort of direction.
So other than this force of outrage, which is related to, let's say, reduction, like the phenomenological reduction of stepping into responsibility related to your domains of purified experience, like
definitions of disciplines, axis, distorted forms of motivation. So then you have your functional hands that distorted forms of defining what you are doing thoroughly. distorted definitions of a
I
purpose.
can
The domain
become
of your experience shall be
aware of the
completely
vast
detached
nature of
from
all the domains
common
of
definitions.
my experience that
Common
kind of
objective
include all that I
associations
can remember, all that I can
and
possibly
experience.
feel,
Take in your hands.
and that can relate to anything in the past or in the future, in the fictional, in the real, in the possible, in the impossible, whatever, is pure experience. So this is the nature of reduction, that whatever is, there's no longer a distinction between what is existent or not existent. That is out of the question, that is parenthesized. The positing of the existence or non-existence of the world is parenthesized, and so the realm of the pure experience is opened. So there is this process of reduction that allows entry, but then
outrageous capacity for integrity. So then
somehow there is another type of responsibility related to how one develops the skillful structures of memory so as to attain
all that you can experience is your domain of responsibility.
Stable function in this new domain of existence. And I can observe in this perspective that
objective world or description of that. Come on, time and space. Come on. If you could have your hand so as to awaken these bodies that you know are truthful. All the ways in which you can experience either
becoming capable of contemplation, like opening up to the vaster languages that open up in the world or all around us, when the structures of language or the configurations of objective identity are disintegrated. That is the very resource that is needed to be able to actualize or to produce a consistent mode of access into this realm of pure insight or purified experience. So it's a paradoxical process in which
there is a body of will, there is a body of
all that needed to be cut off as being a sort of
map of
chains or
according to
kind of
body of will. There is a body of influence.
all of the tumor of imagination that needed to be cut off in the way it was depleting the system, like occupying the resources of will or the resources of clarity, or the way in which this conventional objective reality will define the capacities of will or the clarity of direction, and thus kind of obscuring the more subtle intelligence, let's say, of the heart. This is another primitive metaphor, but like the intelligence of spirit to know directly in sovereignty and in the fullness of the domain of responsible experience. So it's paradoxical that one cuts off this tumor so as to attain elegance of purpose and precision in direction. And yet when one tries to attain a stable morphology of presence in this new domain, actually
it's a ground of ruin, of ashes.
the whole realm of what was experienced
Standing
as
ground, pure
nature or
experience,
objective
just
reality
purified from common
becomes
form
that
of
language in its
Stand.
purified form, in its contemplative access,
Stand
in its
with
subtle. When one enters in subtle contemplation, then that is an adequate language for producing somehow the new identity or the new body, one can say. This, the new body of
common definitions.
moving through these more subtle realms is somehow intrinsically related to the intelligence that is stored in this realm, this co-created realm, and in this body, of course. So,
what would it be if you would just stretch these anchors, if you would develop these
what I
anchors
can observe as part
with a grip on the true membranes.
Part of the work,
The membranes
other
of
than
this
the first
responsibility,
prerequisite
continuous.
of liberation and attaining clarity and stable, clear definition, purified definition of purpose, is to handle differently the resources of material intelligence so as to have the provisions for this new territory of creation, this
honesty.
um,
Step into fierce honesty. Come on.
new realm of creation, new dimension of possible existence.